Car of the future took flight today. The X2 flying car, there it is, took off in an unmanned test flight in Dubai. It's a two-seater, electric, and has vertical takeoff and landing like a chopper.
The X2 is described as an important base for the next generation of flying cars.
Just like people once doubted the Wright brothers' airplane, the idea of flying cars used to seem like pure science fiction. But now, China has introduced its first flying car, and it could change everything we know about getting around. This car can drive on roads and fly in the sky, making it a huge step forward.
This car can fly for 25 minutes with a maximum speed of around 80 miles per hour.
But the question on your mind is probably, how practical is it today? How will it change our cities, and what challenges might it face? Join us as we explore how this flying car could transform transportation, shake up the car industry, and be incorporated into our daily lives, just like aeroplanes. The flying XPeng X2.
This is going to be a prototype for the world's first ever flying car. It's called the XPeng X2.
After leading the world in electric car production, Chinese companies are now at the forefront of developing electric flying vehicles. China is stepping into the future of transportation with AeroHT, a company affiliated with electric vehicle maker XPeng, successfully launching its flying car, the X2, at Beijing Daxing International Airport. This maiden flight, part of the China Langfang International Economic and Trade Fair, highlights the country's growing focus on the low-altitude economy. We'll talk more about the low-altitude economy later, but for now, let's talk about the X2 and why it is indeed extraordinary.
Glimpse of what the future of flying cars could look like. This is the X2.
The XPeng X2 is like something out of a sci-fi movie, yet it's real and ready to take on the skies. Developed by XPeng Aerot, this is the fifth-generation flying car that looks as futuristic as it sounds. With its sleek, teardrop-shaped design and fully enclosed cockpit, the X2 is engineered for top-notch aerodynamics and ultimate in-flight performance. It gets even more interesting, and you'll soon see why. The use of carbon fiber makes the X2 lightweight, allowing it to glide smoothly through the air while staying eco-friendly with zero carbon emissions. Imagine taking a quick hop across town for a medical emergency or a scenic trip, all without worrying about pollution. The XPeng X2 offers two driving modes: manual, for those who want to take control, and autonomous, for a hands-off, easy flight experience with just the press of a button. This high-tech flying car even wowed officials in Dubai when it made its first public flight, passing stringent safety and risk assessments. It's a huge achievement, not just for XPeng, but for China as it enters the race for autonomous, eco-friendly air travel. Whether you're a tech enthusiast or just tired of traffic jams, the XPeng X2 is a glimpse into the future of how we'll get around. With plans to commercialize the X2 soon, AeroHT is gearing up to take orders by the end of this year. The exact price is still unknown, but expectations are high as the company has been developing its flying cars since 2013, setting up research centers across China and even completing its first public flight in Dubai in 2022. The XPeng X2's debut public flight in Dubai was nothing short of historic.
We are now in the researching process. We are make the step by step to the international market.
After securing a special flying permit from the Dubai Civil Aviation Authority (DCAA) and completing a thorough risk assessment, the flying car took to the skies for the first time in front of over 150 influential attendees. These included officials from the Chinese consulate, the Dubai International Chamber of Commerce, and other key figures from Dubai's economy and tourism sectors. The event, held at Skydive Dubai with stunning views of the Palm, made for a breathtaking showcase of this groundbreaking vehicle. Brian Gu, vice chairman and president of XPeng, emphasized the significance of this moment, noting Dubai's reputation as a city of innovation, making it the perfect venue for this milestone. The Dubai International Chamber of Commerce played a key role in supporting the project from the start, with acting president Hassan Al-Hashemi highlighting how the X2 represents ambition, innovation, and a bold vision for the future of mobility. This flight marks not just a technological achievement, but the beginning of a new era that will shape how we think about transportation over the next 50 years. As flying cars like the XPeng X2 take to the skies, they become a pivotal component of the rapidly expanding low-altitude economy. This is linked to the question of how practical will these vehicles be, and this next section explains just that. Keep watching to find out. The low-altitude economy. The low-altitude economy in China refers to businesses and activities involving vehicles and drones that operate below 3,000 meters. It includes everything from flying cars to drones used for emergency services, delivery, tourism, and commuting. This sector is growing fast, with the government backing its development, and it's expected to be worth over 1 trillion yuan, $138 billion by 2026. Over 26 provinces in China are already making plans to integrate these new technologies into everyday life. However, challenges like underdeveloped infrastructure and the lack of uniform standards are slowing things down. Companies like XPeng, Geely's Aerofugia, and Ahang are working to overcome these barriers, pushing the boundaries of what's possible and positioning China to lead a transportation revolution. If successful, this could completely change how we think about getting around, with flying cars becoming part of daily life. To better have an idea of how practical these flying cars would be, we can see that the practical use of drones is no longer a futuristic vision. It's quickly becoming a reality. A recent example illustrates this perfectly. A white drone took off from a platform off the coast of Shanghai and returned with a cargo hold full of fresh seafood. What would once have taken an overnight ferry trip now takes only 3 hours, thanks to low-altitude drone flights. This innovation not only preserves the freshness of the seafood, but also offers a glimpse into the practicality of low-altitude aviation.
China's drones, ranging from personal to industrial, are driving major changes. They're now doing more, from carrying cargo to passengers, helping grow what's being called the low-altitude economy.
For businesses with high food quality standards, such as restaurants, this is a game changer. The drone delivery service mentioned above is just one small slice of a nearly $100 billion industry taking off in China. The central government's push for the development of the low-altitude economy is setting the stage for significant advances in aviation technology, particularly in commercial flights operating below 1,000 meters. With traditional industries like real estate struggling, China is banking on this new sector to boost consumer spending. The question of whether flying cars are practical has sparked debates for years. However, low-altitude drones and small aircraft flights are proving their practicality by solving real-world logistical issues. These vehicles excel at tasks like reducing the time it takes to transport fresh seafood, sending critical supplies to remote areas, and even delivering urgent medical supplies. For instance, China's aviation regulator recently loosened airspace restrictions, allowing smaller drones to operate more freely in areas under 300 meters. This has sparked a boom in drone usage for tasks like crop spraying and even wedding photography. The ability of drones to handle these everyday needs demonstrates that low-altitude aviation may indeed be the answer to those wondering about the practicality of flying cars. If drones and small aircraft can handle tasks like these, it stands to reason that flying cars could one day revolutionize personal transportation. China's central government is fully committed to advancing the low-altitude economy.
The scale of the low-altitude economy sector increased to 506 billion yuan, marking a remarkable growth rate of over 30%.
In 2021, it designated the sector as a top economic priority, and it's already bearing fruit. The number of companies in the low-altitude aviation sector has grown by a third over the past 5 years, with the country's total revenue in the sector reaching 500 billion yuan, $70.8 billion, in 2023. By 2030, the sector is projected to reach a staggering 2 trillion yuan. But here's what the government did that changed everything. One of the main drivers of this growth is the government's easing of regulations. As more airspace restrictions are lifted, businesses are taking advantage of opportunities like drone sightseeing trips, helicopter shuttles, and even leisure flights for urban youth seeking a break from the pressures of city life. For example, A student named Kwai Si-tong recently took a flight in the same aircraft model as the one featured in a popular Chinese drama, saying it symbolized her taking control of her life after a breakup. These kinds of experiences highlight the cultural and personal value that the low-altitude economy is already providing. The growing adoption of drones and small aircraft is not just about convenience, it's also about sustainability. For instance, domestically made drones are increasingly being used to spray crops with pesticides, an essential service in rural areas where labor is scarce. Some drone pilots can earn over 300,000 yuan a year, showing that this technology is not only improving efficiency, but also providing new employment opportunities. Moreover, China's shift toward electric aviation could allow the country to leapfrog over competitors and become a global leader in this emerging field, much like it did with electric vehicles. The government is already laying the groundwork by creating a domestic supply chain for high-tech aviation, from materials to automated flight software. With loosened regulations, increased investment, and growing consumer interest, China's low-altitude aviation sector is poised for explosive growth. Whether it's delivering seafood to restaurants, transporting critical medical supplies, or simply offering breathtaking sightseeing tours, drones and small aircraft are proving their value every day. The practicality of low-altitude flights may well be the answer to the flying car debate, and if the trends continue, these innovations could soon become a normal part of everyday life. As China continues to pioneer electric flying vehicles and streamline its supply chain, the low-altitude economy will become an even bigger driver of economic growth. And with a projected revenue of 2 trillion yuan by 2030, it's clear that this is an industry that is just getting off the ground. The future of flying cars. Chinese companies are rapidly advancing the development of electric vertical takeoff and landing, eVTOL aircraft, often referred to as flying cars, which have the potential to transform both passenger and cargo transportation. These innovative vehicles promise a more sustainable, cost-effective, and quieter alternative to conventional helicopters.
The Chinese market for electric vertical takeoff and landing, or eVTOL, aircraft is experiencing high-flying growth as the country ramps up efforts to foster its low-altitude economy.
Thanks to their reduced environmental impact and lower operating costs, eVTOLs are set to become as prevalent in daily transportation as cars. Leveraging China's dominance in drone and battery technology, eVTOLs resemble large drones equipped with cockpits, enabling them to efficiently cover short distances. The difference between helicopters and eVTOLs is similar to that between fuel-powered cars and electric vehicles, explains Yue Tingting, vice president of Vertaxi, a leading Chinese eVTOL startup. This technological leap introduces a range of new possibilities, extending far beyond the capabilities of traditional helicopters. eVTOLs are poised to create an entirely new transportation landscape, signaling a great shift in how people and goods will move in the future. According to China Post Securities, these aircraft offer 60% energy savings, 90% lower emissions, and produce 65% less noise than traditional fuel-powered helicopters. This makes them not only eco-friendly, but also more suitable for urban environments, where noise pollution and environmental concerns are growing. The tech-rich province of Guangdong, particularly Shenzhen, home to drone giant DJI, is at the forefront of this eVTOL revolution. Local governments are actively supporting the development of this technology through initiatives and test flights, ensuring that the infrastructure is in place for wider adoption. This focus on reducing environmental impact while fostering innovation highlights how eVTOLs could transform modern cities into cleaner, quieter spaces. One of the most exciting developments in the eVTOL sector is Autoflight's Prosperity, which recently completed a cross-sea flight between Shenzhen and Zhuhai in just 20 minutes, a trip that would normally take 2 hours by car. With ticket prices set at around 300 yuan, much cheaper than traditional urban helicopter flights, this achievement underscores the potential for eVTOLs to become an affordable and accessible option for short-distance travel. Operating costs for eVTOLs are just 15% of what it takes to run helicopters, meaning they could one day offer air transport at prices comparable to today's ride-hailing services. This opens up a world where air taxis may become as common as calling an Uber, making quick commutes more efficient and less dependent on congested roadways. EHang, a prominent player in the eVTOL market, made a significant breakthrough in autonomous aviation by becoming the first company to receive an airworthiness certificate from China's aviation regulator for its two-passenger eVTOL. This certification marks a major milestone, validating the safety and technical capabilities of EHang's aircraft.
EHang, a global leader in urban air mobility technology, has announced a significant achievement with the first successful flight of its pilotless eVTOL aircraft
and paving the way for commercial operations. With over 1,200 pre-orders from international markets, EHang anticipates that on-demand air taxis will become a common mode of transport within the next 5 years. This growing demand highlights the potential for eVTOLs to revolutionize urban mobility, offering a faster, quieter, and more environmentally friendly alternative to traditional ground transport. Despite this progress, challenges remain, particularly in the areas of battery technology and safety. Current eVTOL batteries need higher energy density to support longer, more complex flights, which limits the aircraft's operational range. Additionally, safety concerns require extensive testing and development before eVTOLs can be deployed on a large scale. Regulatory authorities are cautious, with official guidelines predicting that widespread commercial use of eVTOLs may not become a reality until 2035. This timeline allows time for technological advancements and safety protocols to be thoroughly established, ensuring that the transition to autonomous electric flying vehicles is both safe and sustainable. Investors are showing strong confidence in the eVTOL market, with over 85% of China's low-altitude aviation investments directed toward these aircraft. Venture capital funding is flooding into the sector, with companies like Aerofugia and Volant Aerotech securing major investments. Even China's leading electric vehicle companies are entering the race. XPeng Aerot, a subsidiary of XPeng Motors, plans to start mass-producing eVTOLs by 2026, aiming to sell them for around 2 million yuan. To address the safety concerns surrounding eVTOL aircraft, China's aviation authorities have implemented a step-by-step development strategy. This approach focuses initially on cargo flights in suburban and less densely populated areas, allowing companies to accumulate safe flight hours and data before moving into passenger transport. By starting with low-risk operations, eVTOL companies can build a foundation of trust and reliability, gradually working toward more complex urban operations. For example, the Prosperity eVTOL by Autoflight successfully completed a 70-kilometer cross-sea flight between Shenzhen and Zhuhai, demonstrating the viability of cargo transport over longer distances.
In a milestone for the aviation industry, Chinese firm Autoflight this week completed a successful unmanned flight between two cities and across bodies of water in southern China's Guangdong province.
This cautious approach is essential to ensuring that eVTOL technology is perceived as safe and reliable before it is introduced into highly populated city environments for passenger use. In addition to the phased strategy, consumer adoption remains a key hurdle for eVTOL companies. Venture capital funding is pouring into the industry, but consumer interest and trust must grow to ensure widespread use. Content creators like Zilele play a significant role in demystifying the technology and making the concept of personal flight more relatable to the public. By sharing his personal experiences with eVTOL aircraft through social media, Z helps bridge the knowledge gap and builds excitement around the potential of this new form of transport. His efforts, alongside those of other eVTOL advocates, are critical to transforming eVTOLs from a futuristic concept into a viable option for everyday commuters. As the technology progresses and safety records are established, consumer enthusiasm will be pivotal to the market's long-term success. But there have been questions as to whether China is truly innovative or just borrowing from others. The answers will surprise you. Truly innovative or borrowed innovation? When the tech behind a revolutionary flying car, first developed in Europe, was sold to a Chinese company, it underscored a key truth.
Now, the technology behind a convertible flying car, originally developed and successfully test-flown in Europe, has been bought by a Chinese firm.
China is not simply waiting to catch up in the race for flying cars. It is actively shaping the future of personal air transport. But it also raised a question about whether China is truly innovative or just borrowing innovation. Hebei Jianxin Flying Car Technology Company, a Chinese firm based in Guangzhou, recently acquired the exclusive rights to manufacture and use the air car, an innovative vehicle that transforms from car to aircraft in just over 2 minutes. Originally powered by a BMW engine and designed to run on standard fuel, the air car completed a successful 35-minute flight between 2 Slovakian airports in 2021, marking a major milestone in the development of flying vehicles. This acquisition is not an isolated example. China is rapidly emerging as a leader in the flying car space, with companies like Autoflight and eHang making headlines. Autoflight recently tested a passenger-carrying drone, successfully flying it between Shenzhen and Zhuhai, cities separated by a journey that typically takes 3 hours by car. The drone completed the trip in just 20 minutes, although it did not yet carry passengers. Meanwhile, eHang, a pioneer in electric vertical takeoff and landing technology, received a safety certificate from Chinese authorities for its flying taxis, which are expected to become a common mode of transport within the next decade. These achievements highlight the breadth of China's ambitions and the variety of approaches its firms are taking to create a new era of aviation. What makes China's flying car strategy particularly notable is its comprehensive approach. The country's aviation authorities have adopted a phased, safety-first strategy that prioritizes cargo flights in less populated areas before introducing passenger transport to urban centers. This allows companies to build a solid track record of safety.
The flight information of our entire aircraft to ensure that the entire aircraft is in a safe state of operation,
which is essential for gaining consumer trust. Furthermore, local governments are actively supporting test flights and development, particularly in tech hubs like Guangdong, home to drone giant DJI. Shenzhen, often called the drone capital, is at the center of many of these developments. This methodical approach is paired with a focus on cost-effectiveness. For example, Autoflight's eVTOL offers short-distance flights at ticket prices comparable to ride-hailing services, making air travel more accessible to the public. With comprehensive operating costs being just 15% of those for helicopters, eVTOLs could become a common mode of transportation, offering affordable, efficient travel that avoids the congestion of traditional roadways. This focus on affordability and accessibility could be what eventually drives flying cars to become an everyday reality, much like electric vehicles, EVs, did in the previous decade. While China's development of flying car technology is undeniably impressive, the fact that some of this innovation, like the air car, was originally developed in Europe raises an interesting question. Is China simply buying its way to the top, or is it truly innovating? Hebei Jianxin's acquisition of the air car's manufacturing rights means the vehicle will now be produced and flown in a specific region of China. Although the Slovakian-developed air car requires a runway to take off and land, unlike the vertical takeoff capabilities of eVTOLs, it offers a glimpse into China's broader ambition of integrating diverse flying technologies into its transportation ecosystem.
eHang, an emerging eVTOL manufacturer, has signed a memorandum of understanding with Xishan Tourism to develop the low-altitude ecosystem in China.
Aviation consultant Steve Wright has pointed out that China's swift adoption of the air car may allow the country to bypass some of the regulatory and infrastructure challenges that have slowed down flying car development in the West. Wright highlights how Western nations, with their long histories of aviation regulation, often try to fit new technologies into old frameworks, which can impede progress. China, by contrast, is less encumbered by such legacies and can adapt regulations more flexibly, potentially giving it a competitive edge. This raises a larger question. Can China achieve the same level of success with flying cars as it did with EVs, where it now leads the global market? While the purchase of foreign technology like the air car is a significant move, it doesn't detract from the fact that China is fostering an environment of innovation in the flying car sector. The country's leadership in drone and battery technology provides a strong foundation for developing electric-powered flying vehicles. Furthermore, its methodical, safety-first approach may position it to lead the global flying car market, much as it did with EVs. In the end, whether the technology was bought or developed domestically, China's ability to integrate and scale flying car solutions could transform urban mobility in ways that few other countries are prepared to match. As flying cars continue to evolve, one thing that is clear is that China is not only a participant in this revolution, but is shaping the future of personal air travel. Whether through homegrown innovations or acquisitions like the air car, the country is moving quickly to bring flying vehicles from sci-fi fantasy to everyday reality. However, challenges remain in terms of infrastructure, regulation, and public acceptance. But as China demonstrated with electric vehicles, once it sets its sights on dominating a market, it tends to succeed. This innovation in flying cars won't be limited to China alone. Much like how Chinese technologies in areas such as electric vehicles and 5G have spread globally, partnerships between Chinese firms and companies across the world will drive the international adoption of eVTOLs and flying cars. As Chinese companies develop more affordable and efficient flying vehicles, other nations may integrate these innovations into their urban transport systems, reshaping how people and goods move around the world. With these innovations, do you think the world is still very far from realizing the picture of the future painted in several movies and books? We would love to know in the comments. If you enjoyed watching this video, don't forget to leave a like, share it with your family and friends, and subscribe to our channel so you don't miss our next updates. Also, click the next video on your screen to enjoy more exciting content.